Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a bag from my book called the Sophia Shoulder bag. It is a reasonably simple bag to make. So to start with, you will take 3 pieces. This is the front, back and flap. You'll cut those 3 pieces. They're all the same size, and I've also interfaced them. You will then take your lining pieces. Again, you'll cut 3. They're all the same size, as well as being the same size as the main pieces. I did not interface any of these, but you can do if you'd like to. Then we move on to the side panels and the base. For these, I have used some faux leather. Some bright pink faux leather. Again, interfaced using Decovil light, which is suitable for faux leather. Then the side panel and bag base lining, which again I have cut in the polka dot fabric. It's just a poly cotton and is suitable for lining African wax print bags and bags made from other medium weight to heavyweight cottons also. The handle piece is cut 1. There is 1 handle piece, again interfaced. Moving on then to the magnetic bag clasp, which I'm going to be adding to this project. You'll also need a small pair of scissors. You'll need your spool of thread. You'll need your rotary cutter, which is not pictured, as well as some bag clips, which are a great alternative to pins, especially when using very thick fabric. Okay. Not thick fabric, but interfaced fabric. Okay, so you will then take the, well, I'll just call this the front piece, and you will line up you will line up the base piece so that the 2 long sides are lined up, the 2 long raw edges, and you will then stitch those using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Remembering to backstitch at the front and at the beginning and at the end of the stitch line. When that's done, you'll then go ahead and try to press your seams. This was made more difficult by the fact, in this project, this was made more difficult by the fact that the seam was quite bulky, because of course I had 2 layers of interfacing on the front piece and a layer of decovil on the base piece. It may have been easier for me to have trimmed that seam first But again, you know, you'll play around. It will depend on what interfacing you're using, if any. These are just things to sort of bear in mind. But I did decide to try and press it flat, and which I managed to do. So I pressed on the front, then pressed on the back. And I've used just a piece of scrap, a piece of matching scrap fabric to keep the seam flat while I press, as a sort of pressing cloth. Okay, you'll then move on by attaching the back of the bag, again with the long edge of the back lined up with the long edge of the base piece, and you will stitch those together using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. When that's done, and this is how your bag will look. And you'll then proceed to add the side panels. So you'll attach one side panel to the short end of the back, and one side panel to the other side of the short end at the front. And you'll stitch those pieces on using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. I have used both a walking foot for this project as well as a 100 size 100 needle. When that's what I've done, because I'm going to be adding a bag clasp, I'm going to add the bag clasp at this stage. In order to do this, I have measured sort of the center bottom of the front. So I have said that I want 1/2 of the clasp to sort of sit just above the base, the bag base, and that I want it to be positioned in the middle at the bottom. And I believe the length of that piece was 28 centimeters approximately. And so halfway through was 14, sorry, it was 14 centimeters. And I made a mark there just to mark that point. I then used the two sort of flat silver pieces, I used one of them to mark the points at which the prongs, the two prongs from one side of the bag clasp would go in. I then made 2 holes, not the best pair of scissors to use for this job, let's be honest, but it did the job. You'll need to really sort of put some effort into it if you're getting through, you know, your fabric layer and then 2 layers of interfacing. But at least you can be sure that the clasp won't sort of start coming out. You know, there won't be any ripping, which sometimes happens if you've got kind of really thin fabric. You know, it just doesn't work. But at least I know that this will be very, very secure. I'll then push the 2 prongs into those 2 holes that I've now made, those 2 cuts that I've now made. I don't think it's gone in as well as I would have liked the first time, or did it? Oh no, it did go in, great. And then I'll take that silver piece, the flat silver piece, lay it over those 2 prongs and then press the 2 prongs flat either side, just so that that stays in place. So if you have my book, you would have seen the Tony box bag. That bag is also made using this bag clasp. So do have a look at that or those instructions for more detail on how that's done. Now your bag will begin to take shape. You will line up the other long side of the side panel with the short side of the back piece, and then the other long side of the bag panel with the short side of the front piece, and stitch using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. When that's done, you can see how your bag will look. You need to close the small gaps at the base by stitching the side panel and the base panel together at one side, and then stitching the side panel and the base panel together at the other side. Once that has been sewn, and you turn your bag right side out, this is how it will look. So I'm just going to turn the bag wrong side out again to show you the trimming of the seams. As I think I've said, these seams are quite bulky. You will want to trim them down as much as you can. You may want to use a good pair of shears to do this rather than these small scissors. Then onto the flap. So to make the flap, you will take one piece, the third piece, and one of the lining pieces, and put them together, right sides facing, stitching the 2 short sides and one of the long sides to make a U, leaving the second long side open. You will turn the flap through to the right side from that side. Then moving on to the handle. In order to sew the handle, you'll sew it rather like you do bias binding. So first of all, fold the handle along the length of the making a center fold. Once you've done that, you'll then bring both of the raw edges, the long raw edges, to that center fold, and then bring both of those new fold lines to meet, and then press. You'll then stitch this by first of all making one top stitch line that will close those 2 fold lines, you'll then make a second top stitch line on the other side of that handle. Both top stitch lines are going to be very close, as close as you can to the edge, just to give it a nice neat finish. When that's done, you will take your main bag. You would also, once you had attached the bag clasp to your flap, you will then take your flap and sew it to the main bag. So you'll attach your flap to the back of the main bag. So you'll attach your flap once you've pressed it and you've added your bag clasp. You will attach your flap to the back of the bag. Your bag is going to be right side out, and you'll line up the flap to the bag right side to right side. When attaching the handle, you'll have the bag wrong side out, and you'll attach the raw edge of your handle to the raw edge of your so this is why the bag is inside out, so wrong side out, because you want to have the handle inside the bag, and for the handle to be connected or match the bag, to be clipped to the bag right side to right side. You'll then stitch that on your machine using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now on to the bag lining. To make the lining, you will stitch in very much the same way as you did the outer bag. The only difference being that on one side of the base, you'll leave a 2 to 4 inch gap. 2 may be too small, 4 is probably just right. I think I went for 5 inches just because I knew that I'd have a very sort of stiff bag to pull through. But you'll leave that gap because through that gap you will pull your main bag through. So that's where you'll leave your gap. And then you'll sew that on your machine using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. And so this is how your bag now looks with the main bag right side out and the lining wrong side out. You will insert the outer bag into the lining piece, lining up the raw edges and ensuring that the bag handles and the bag flap are between the lining and the bag. And that's your finished bag. I also top stitched around, once you have finished sewing the bag together as shown in the last step, you'll then pull your bag through the gap in the lining. And once you've done that, you'll want to top stitch the top of the bag. You'll also want to top stitch the bag flap. I didn't do that in this project, but you may want to do so. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Do subscribe if you aren't already subscribed, and comment below, like this video, and also ping the notification bell if you want to be notified when I post another video. If you would like to see more African wax print fabric, then be sure to follow me on Instagram. The handle is @dovetailed_London. I'm also on Facebook @dovetailed_London. And if you want to join a community of like-minded sewers of African wax print fabric, then be sure to join my Facebook group. All of the details are in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye.